Hello, beautiful souls. Today we have a roundtable discussion. So we have myself, Victoria Amador from Soul Healing Tribe. I help those that are going through spiritual awakening, release traumas, fears, and doubts. And Janelle.
I'm Chanel Mulligan. I am a life mediator, quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, neuro-linguistic programmer.
Hi, I'm Natalie Delane. I'm a mindfulness life coach. I help women just tap into their voice and help them get to their soul purpose.
I'm MJ Marshall, a spiritual life coach. I assist women who have recently got out of being incarcerated. I help them with resources, and I also help them find the type of healing that they need on a spiritual level.
I'm Melvis from the4elementshealing.com. I'm a QHHT and Reiki practitioner.
Beautiful. And today we're going to be talking about the dark night of the soul. So we're going to start with a quick overview of what is the dark night of the soul? What does it mean for you? So anybody wants to start?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll start. So for me, it was a space and time where I felt completely helpless. And the helplessness came from feeling disconnected to God, source, love, whatever you want to call it, however it feels to you, but feeling completely disconnected, which then made me feel helpless, which then made me feel lost, and lost in every sense of the word. And I was so lost that I didn't know if I wanted to reconnect. Like I was in that place that I was like, I don't want to reconnect to God, love, source. Like it doesn't work for me. I don't believe in it anymore. I'm completely disillusioned by what happened. And it's heavy. And it lasts for some time, and it lasts differently for everyone.
Beautiful, Mel.
From what I've experienced, it's kind of like a shift happens within you where you can begin questioning things that your belief. And as you progress that road, it kind of invalidates everything, like the meaning that your life had before. And in that space, like the whole concept, the whole framework of what you believed life to be is up in question, and that can leave you in a really dark place, not really knowing you're no longer what you were, and you're not yet what you're going to be. So it's sometimes complex to travel through.
Definitely agree, Amy. It's very complex to travel through. For myself, my belief and my definition of it is that time in life where everything breaks away, and to your point, everything that you thought you knew no longer is showing up to be true. Those beliefs, the programs, your role in life that you thought you were supposed to be walking, that path that you thought, oh, it's clear, I know where I'm going, and it all just falls apart around you, and now you're left going, oh, A, I'm wrong. B, what's next? Who really am I? I was a daughter, a mother, a sister, a caretaker, but that's not actually who I am. And it's that breaking open of the potential of who we can be, and that scariness that everything you thought just falls away. Some people that takes a month, and some people that takes years. For me, it took probably good 5 years to go through that. So yeah, to me, that is what I consider dark night of the soul.
Beautiful.
I would definitely agree with you, Janelle. For me, it was escaping a conditioned space identity and finding myself. I became very spiritual at one time in my 20s, and I totally escaped it because it scared me back then. I went off to just find myself doing everything. I always had all the answers, able to start my own business. And then when my world started falling apart, I no longer had those answers anymore. Nothing I was doing was working out for me. And at that time, my intuition told me something was going on with me spiritually. And I saw a lot of things, felt a lot of experiences that I began to question who I am and what life was in general.
Yeah, I think I went through something similar. For me, just like you ladies, I felt lost, disconnected, and I knew there had to be something else, but I didn't know what it was. And I call it the dark night of the soul, almost 2 years, but in reality, I was in it the whole time for all my life, because I lived in childhood depression due to all the things that I was seeing that I didn't understand and that I didn't speak to anyone about. So the dark night intensified when I was going through the layers of peeling out who I have become through all the programming and all the expectations of what it means to be here now, to be a woman, a student, a mother, a sister, and so on. So it took a couple of years for me to go through that and really level off and feel like, okay, I'm getting a little break, and then boom, back down again. So it was like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But in the process of that, letting go of that old version of who you are and having that rebirth and understanding how divine we are as beings here now was probably one of the most impactful things that I got out of that process of going through the dark night of the soul. So definitely something very exciting to discuss today. So in terms of how are you assisting your clients with those that are going through the dark night, can you give us some ideas of how you're doing that within your own practice?
Yeah, I'll jump in because you just said it's exciting to talk about, and I realize exciting and never really talked about. So it's like even more exciting for me. So one of the things I do with my clients is I first help them distinguish if they're experiencing depression or if they're experiencing the dark night of the soul. Because what I found with a lot of my clients is that sometimes it's blurry and you can't really tell, and getting clear on that distinction. Okay, no, I'm just in the dark place, or I am lost beyond belief, and all the beautiful things we just described. So it's one of the first things I love doing with my clients. And then once we discern, okay, yeah, this is like bigger than just a depression, I jump into, okay, let's take a breath. Let's tap into, what do you really want now, right? Not the persons we were before, the roles we were before, but what do you really want now? Getting that clarity and helping them. Because a lot of what I do with my clients is just help them with clarity and everything. But like I dig and I ask, what do you really want? Not just what do you want? What do you dream about? No. What do you really want? Once they have that, one of my favorite things to do is I create a roadmap with them, and we create it together. So a lot of what coaching is like getting from point A to point Z, or whatever letter you want to call it. So having that clarity, discernment, clarity, and then creating that roadmap with them, it helps because it gives them direction. It gives them accountability. It gives them a partner. Like I love helping other women go through this because I was alone, and maybe many of us were. And how it's like even scarier when there's no one around, no one understands. So having that accountability and having that partnership with these lovely women that I help, it feels good. And it doesn't mean I get them out of this dark night of the soul in one day or 1 week. However, giving them that path and helping them with that roadmap is like a beautiful first step. And having them feel supported, like that alone to me is, I wish I had this when I went through mine starting around 20 years old. So like, I wish I had that. So what I like to do.
That's beautiful. Janelle?
So for me, how I help my clients is I work with a lot of left brain thinkers, logical. Being an attorney, that's how I have tried to wrestle my entire existence, intellectually wrestle it into submission, and realize that doesn't necessarily work. However, for many left-brained people who are very logical, tapping in and trusting the instincts, trusting your intuition, trusting yourself has been one of the things that I help people with the most. It's helping them reframe the thoughts and language that they're using, the way they're approaching goals in life, and taking that step back and taking a breath to then go, is this really what I want, or is this what I was told I had to do? And then how do I look at this differently? How do I reframe it, rephrase it, listen to myself? Because we get caught in these negative feedback patterns in our own heads, and having somebody hold a mirror to that and help hold a container to go, is this true and correct? And the other thing I do in that is I test them. I sometimes hear the energy of the words and what they're saying and not saying. And I try to hold their feet to the fire a little bit so that they can't take the escape route as easily when they're working through it, because it's easy to just stay in the negative feedback loop or jump to the next best thing instead of looking at the entire narrative that you are allowing yourself to program and reprogram within yourself. And I help them use language mostly to break that out and break that down. Then if that isn't working and or they've gotten through it and they're like, oh, then I can use hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming to take that to the next level and help them explore more on the spiritual imagination, higher purpose perspective.
Melvis, would you like to share?
Yeah, so with my quantum healing sessions, I find that a lot of people are coming to me at that point in their life because they're really navigating like new ideas, and they're still in that place where they're not really sure what this call is and what is awakening inside of them. So I find I really offer myself as a guide to really just not eliminate. We don't want to eliminate the darkness. We kind of want to navigate it and really realize that it sometimes feels like a death, but what's really dying is all these old ideas, who we thought we were, trying to figure out how we're going to fit into this world now that we are no longer who we were. I think that's a big thing that people struggle with, like I'm not that, who am I really? And it's all really overwhelming, just trying to redefine yourself. So yeah, just embracing the dark that's coming up and not shunning it is really important in my practice, because it serves the purpose too. Everything leads to darkness can lead to the light.
Yep.
MJ. For my clients, I get with them and I know that when you're going through the dark soul of the night, it can make you feel crazy. So I like to look at how they're doing with their basic needs. Can they pay their rent? Can they make sure that they have food coming in? Because they might go into a series of depression. It's going to bring about a lot of feelings. So I have to make sure that they have the resources that they need, and I can give them the referrals that will help them with their spiritual experiences. That's how I'm able to help my client.
That's beautiful. I think for me, what I noticed with the dark night of the soul and those people, those clients that are coming, first of all, I have to make sure that people understand if anybody has depression, you really do need to seek medical attention, right? Because that is a fine line. And with the dark night, the line is so blurry that you're like, I don't even know if I'm walking a fine line right here. But you know that at the same time, you also know that you attract the people that you're ready to assist. So we also have to be a little courageous to know when we can walk the fine line. In my case, I do see a lot of clients that are dealing with very heavy emotions, shame, guilt, hopelessness, helplessness, and so on, that again are very blurry into, is this something that I need to refer out? For those clients, what I notice is that it's so many layers of the healing process, from going to childhood trauma and back into other lives, other experiences where their soul is stuck. So we actually go back to those experiences and we rescue those pieces of the soul that have fragmented and stay in those experiences. So there is a lot of things that are happening all at the same time within a session. And obviously people do different sessions because it's not just a one-off. So the layers can be very convoluted, and honoring the client, seeing the client as perfect, because they are perfect, they are good, right? They can do this much, that's great. They can do this much, that's also great, because they do what they can, what the soul is able to handle at the time. But what I notice is that most of the time, these people are doing work that I'm like, wow, I cannot believe they allowed themselves to go there, because it's beautiful. Like, I don't even know if I could do it. I cannot believe you did that. That's beautiful. Yeah. So yes, it's a very convoluted process, but definitely healing is possible. And I think that's one of the things that I would love for everybody listening to really understand. it is possible. Like those people that are hopeless, they don't think it is possible, right? When you're feeling stuck in the middle of this hole, there is no solution, right? But the moment that you feel a little better and you're like, oh, I feel good today, that's when we really need to say, I need to keep this feeling. How do I keep this feeling? What do I need to do to keep this feeling? Any thoughts about that?
I liked the language Melvis used about being the guide, being a facilitator. I think in all of our roles, that's really what we are, is someone who holds space and helps be a light, that when they are in this dark night and it is pitch black and you don't know what's up, down, around, to hold that light, to be the guide, to be the person that can show you that it's possible to live through it and come out of it, is absolutely fantastic. And we always also learn from our clients in one way, shape, or form. It's beautiful how our souls and the universe bring the people to us that we can help the most, but also they almost always have a lesson for us if we're willing to listen. And that just makes us even better. And I love that capacity.
I also am going to piggyback on what someone said about the darkness is needed, because things happen in that darkness, but there always is that light. And the five of us, we are those guides towards that light at different points in your life, at different ages, different socioeconomic groups, wherever you are. As Victoria said, when you have that good day, that good moment, like reach in deep down and say, okay, I feel good today. How can I feel better? And what help is available? And I think that's where the five of us come in. And that's why we're here today. There is help available, which wasn't when I was going through the worst of it. And maybe some of us as well. And like, we felt so alone, but that's not the case anymore. We are talking about these topics. We are sharing our experiences, and we are so available to help and guide all and any of you. So I just, going back to that, like that day, that moment, that day that you feel a little bit better than the day before, take that and see how far you can go with it that day, and seek the help and ask. And even ask your guides, God, whoever, right? And the answers will come to you, because we are here. We exist.
Absolutely. I think in regards to the darkness, one thing that I do notice, and I hate to be that person, but one thing that I do notice with clients that are very deep into the darkness is that they also may have spirit attachments. And a lot of those spirits don't necessarily mean that they're evil. Sometimes those are spirits from past lives that are still there to remind you healing needs to be done. So I find that beautiful, and it makes me laugh. It's evil, I know, but it makes me laugh.
I appreciate, Victoria, how you shared that people can have these attachments, and that term has such a negative connotation in today's day and age with people talking about it, but attachments aren't bad. The fact that you highlighted that it could just be actually a part of your own soul that is still connected to another past life, or a part of you, even in childhood, that is just saying, I need help. The fact of reframing that language in the spiritual community that's used very negatively these days, I love that you reframed to that. So thank you.
You got it. Anybody else? Just makes me laugh.
I think we're also, as a society and individually, trained almost to be happy, keep our vibes high. So the dark night of the soul comes with that added pressure because it's difficult and it's a dark place. I wanted to just reiterate that how important it is to really just navigate it, and also find others so that you don't feel alone, because it can be such a lonely path, particularly at the beginning when you aren't sure if you're going crazy or you're weird. But there's so many people, so many of us that are here to guide. Like Natalie said, that wasn't available even a few years ago. And now there's so much support and so much validation out there that it's normal. And even though sometimes it feels like a death, it's really just, it's an awakening. You're waking up to who you truly are. And it's a beautiful thing.
A rebirth. MJ?
Yes. Amy, you bring about an important question that I'd like to ask, and it's for anyone who has an answer. For those individuals that come to see you all when they're potentially going through the darkness of the soul, and they think that they have to now become like this perfectionist, and they're beating themselves up by not doing every single thing in line with their spirit guides or what they believe God to be at that time. What do you guys have to say for those that are going through that?
I'll jump in real quick. So, sorry, Victoria.
No, go ahead, Natalie.
So this happens to me often with my clients, and I remind them, let's take happiness, right? Because that's a lot of people's goals. Happiness it's not something to gain, get, attain, look for, wait for when I'm thinner, when I'm older, when I have more money. Happiness is, and I remind my clients that like, it's not something for you to work on, be perfect at. It's a choice. It's already inside of us. It's inside of them. Of course, they don't feel that because they're in this place of darkness, but that's why we're here, right? Like we get to remind them, like, my love, happiness is just because, period. And so I love like instilling that in my clients, because a lot of us, I think Amy said, we're programmed. We've been programmed. So no, when I get that job, when I have that car, when I have that house, no, my loves. Happiness is right here, right now, in this moment. If you're in the darkness, if you're not in the darkness, we get to choose that no matter what. So that's one of the ways that I love reminding my clients.
Beautiful. So I think I had so many stories about that, but let me start with the Women King. You guys seen that movie, The Women King?
Yeah, but it's on my list. Okay.
And they do a ritual, and they're like, women's, and these are warriors, and they cannot get married, they cannot have kids. It's about strength and fighting for the king, fighting for the whole. And I'm like, yay. But I'm watching the movie and seeing all the different things that are happening that is still in our bloodline, that are still letting us know this is something that I need to heal. I cannot be strong, be a warrior, and have a husband and have kids. Those are things that we have to break from. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the dark night of the soul brings those pieces from our ancestors so that we can work through them and release those, whatever they are, beliefs, programming, even curses, right? We are working through the dark night of the soul to understand that we can be who we want to be, not who we were supposed to be based on what the ancestors had in store for us, what they believed back then, right? So I can have a million things, but I'm going to pass it on to somebody else.
So Amelva said about giving permission and giving ourselves grace when we're in that darkness. And I think that is so very important, because we aren't trained to give ourselves permission to feel bad feelings, the anger, the frustration, the fear, the sadness, all of the things that we're going through. We are told that toxic positivity, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, suck it up, you'll be fine. Everything that we now realize is part of mental health in a lot of ways, goes into that dark night of the soul as well. And all of that programming and negative, put it down and just push it away and compartmentalize it instead of sitting with it and loving it, because it's a part of us. And if we can love it, we can then love ourselves. So that permission to give ourselves that space to sit in the darkness, to feel the emotions, allow the emotions, energy in motion to move through us, to then be able to move forward, is absolutely integral to that. And the hard part is when you start finding the light and when you start seeing, oh, there's a path out. You almost want that instant gratification. I see that with clients is, oh, I'm now spiritual. I need to become a healer, or I'm now this. And so I need to do whatever. And to MJ's question about how do we tell them to navigate that, is you don't have to choose right now. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to go through the process, because you're going to have a lot of pivots. You're going to have a lot of changing directions. And that's part of it. We're on a journey. We're not looking for the destination. Unfortunately, we also think that we have to find the destination, to what Natalie said about getting the house and getting the job and getting the kids. And it's not about the destination. And so you don't have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, and actually making the mistakes makes it even more beautiful because you grow and learn and get to know so much more about yourself and the world we're in.
Did you have anything to add to that, MJ? Anything that you would like to share about that?
That was beautiful as well, Janelle. Thank you for your feedback with that, my question.
Awesome. I do have a question for you, ladies. I am interested to know, during the dark night of the soul, what did you experience was the biggest expectation that other people had of you or you had of yourself that you had to let go of?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
I think the hardest thing for me to let go was the choices I had made when I was fulfilling roles for others. To your point earlier, Victoria, about the generational trauma and expectations that were placed upon me, going to college, going to law school. And when I had just finished law school, basically when I was in the middle of my dark night of the soul, and dollars worth of debt. Now I'm like, oh God, what do I do with this? I don't even know if I want to be an attorney. I don't even know if this is in fact what I want to do, but I spent all of this money taking this path. What do I do with this now? And figuring out how to navigate the choices I made and the path I was trying to follow before I knew better, before I knew myself better. So that was one of the hardest things for myself. And I see that with my clients as well, is they've taken these huge steps, done these huge things to go on a path that they thought was what they needed or what was expected or what they should do. And now they're finding it's not what makes them necessarily happy. And they're trying to figure out how to navigate their passions and desires and needs and wants with what they have a skill set for today, and figuring out how to merge that together.
Mine is similar. Mine was the expectation of the role of being the eldest child. And I'm the firstborn from both sides. So oldest, and just there was all this expectation. I was going to be this perfect leader, first child. Everyone's going to follow this great, perfect example. And mid-20s is when it was just crumbling. I was not showing up like that. People were literally saying, Natalie, you aren't like this anymore. Why aren't you the happy one? Why didn't you plan this? Why didn't you and then finally, and then I realized that I wasn't verbally expressing to people that I no longer wanted to be in that role. I just started acting and retracting almost. And then I got the courage to express that I'm no longer choosing to be that kind of leader and in that role. But that break from being it for so many years and then deciding that I didn't, and then saying it out loud to the people that I loved the most, that for me was like a huge shift in the dark night of my soul, because I didn't want to let my family down. I love them, right? They're like the people that I love the most. Like, I don't want to let them down, but I was letting myself down more. And I finally realized that could no longer happen. And so I expressed and voiced what I really wanted. Ooh, I got goosebumps, but it's magical. And to our whole point of this podcast, it's possible, right? Like, we get to go through those things, and we will, and we do. And then look at all this yummy magic on the other side, or like through it to the other side, right? It's not just the darkness, it's the lessons, the failures, all the little pieces that come in between. So that's what it was for me.
MJ?
Yes. My experience is very similar to yours, Natalie. My professional family, my clients, they were so dependent on me. And I had tried to work up the nerves to tell them on multiple occasions that it was time for me to first reduce my caseload because it was just too much. And they gave me a lot of reasons why they needed me more. And so being such a people pleaser, that was very difficult for me. And when I went through the dark soul of the night, it was no longer about just them alone. What about me and my well-being? Because I was deteriorating spiritually, physically. And so now I have an opportunity to still do what I love, but designed by me. So it's beautiful.
Yes.
I love it because it's like, I'm right there with you. I made all of those things too, the same expectation. But I think my biggest thing that I had to let go of was me expecting me to be the alpha in the family, the one, like, ooh, I was so proud. So like even my mother will wait for me to make the decisions, right? And my father and so on. So the whole family is depending on me. And like, oh shoot, what do I do when I'm no longer that person? Then who am I when I give up that role? So that took a while. That's why I couldn't stop laughing, MJ.
And I'm sure you're the alpha. And so I'll speak for me, like same, we have very similar. Like I was the first, I am the alpha in a whole nother way now, in the way I want to lead, in the way I want to show up. And it's so powerful. I can still fill that role, just not the way they wanted me to. And it's great. I'm sure we're all doing it in our own ways, right? Helping our clients, showing up in our business, creating our businesses. Like we are showing up. It's just the way we do
Differently.
For me, it's almost there have been awakenings within my awakenings. It's such a gradual process. It's not like suddenly I'm awake, because you change so much on the path. You're just, as you learn, I've been in low moments where I remember being like, are we just like ants in an ant farm, like, are we nothing? And then going from there to being able to reconnect and really feel like in my power, and like feeling amazed at that I can have this connection with a God that actually isn't the type of God that I was raised to believe in, with a loving being. And so it's been very, like, many different awakenings within my experience. But what I've found is really just honoring yourself and realizing that just keep showing up for yourself and keep believing in what's waking up within you is really valid. And as you continue to do that, new experiences, new people just show up in your path. And then you find yourself, just like Natalie said, really being, like she said, she's the alpha, but in the way that she wants to be. And that's so powerful. Like, you have to get to the point where you're showing up the way that you actually are, not the way that you're expected to by others that may not understand you.
that authentic self. Oof.
Anybody else has any other? Okay, go for it.
So I guess what I would like to hear is if you could tell yourself one thing when you're in that middle, like beginning of that, just before you knew everything was starting to fall away, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Okay, so I'll go first. I think for me, looking back, I wouldn't change anything because it has made me who I am today. But I think the advice that I will give myself is to be patient, because first of all, I was going through a lot of training, spiritual training, and I wanted to be like really good, really fast, because I just wanted to be done with it and be able to help others. I'm like, just get this done with. So for me, it's patience, like just be more patient, which brings me to the questions that I have for you all, but I'm going to wait for everybody to go around.
Yeah, for me, it would be surrender. Like, it's okay to surrender now. If I could tell myself that. And then when I thought I surrendered, surrender some more. Like, it's like this constant reminder of this is happening for me, with me, about me, right? Not like to me, and just surrender. And it's funny because my post today on Instagram was all about surrendering. So yeah, I love the universe, like surrender, surrender, surrender. I would remind myself of that.
I guess for myself, it would be allow myself to see all potential, release the expectations. So I guess it kind of goes into the surrender and the patience. but releasing expectations of what this is going to look like. That control freak in me and trauma response to always trying to set the next pieces up, and the Capricorn, always looking for that next step, that next goal, the next piece in my puzzle, and thinking I know better than the universe is giving me. So releasing the control and releasing the expectations and allowing myself to trust myself.
Anybody else?
I would say to relax, calm down during the process. It was so funny. Initially, I thought I was a shaman, a high priestess, everything. I was in the healing stage, right? And I'm like, I'm all these wonderful things. And I just need to relax, to calm down, let the healing take place, and everything will come to me as in divine timing. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just really trust and believe that everything will come in divine timing, because you're on this path for a reason, and it's easy at the beginning to doubt yourself, but just really trust and lean in and follow your heart.
Awesome. So I think we'll leave it here for now. I think that's a good to wrap it up with those beautiful comments and inspiration, motivation for the next time.
Yes. Wonderful.
Good. Awesome. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you. Ciao, everybody.
Bye.